This is a City AM Studios production.
Hello and welcome back to Business as Usual with me, Martin Kimber.
And me, Matt Kenyon. Coming up on the podcast today, house prices are back on the up, but for how long?
A big win for British newspapers as the Daily Mail defeats Prince Harry in court.
Plus, is corporate hospitality to blame for all the empty seats at Wimbledon, or have the tickets just gotten too expensive? Well, welcome back to the podcast. Welcome back, Martin.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me back.
Good to have you back. Simon is
nice
out.
to know they didn't change the locks to the studio door.
No, we couldn't figure out how. So we're going to be kicking off with some retail news. I'm going to say we're not going to be talking about Nigel Farage.
No,
I think we're probably going to be the only podcast. No, We're not going there.
Nope.
But where we are going is to some more retail-focused stories. In the studio, we have our plucky retail reporter, intrepid retail reporter, Felix Armstrong. You've had some housing data through. So about a week ago, we would have called it the Halifax House Price Index.
RIP.
RIP. There is no Halifax brand anymore. So now I suppose we call it the Lloyds House Price Index. Is that right?
And with that renaming, it's bringing some good news, with house prices jumping according to this index, for the first time since the Iran war started 4 months ago.
And why is this?
So mortgage rates obviously shot up in February in reaction to, at the end of February and the start of March, in reaction to the Iran war, but they have been softening since we had nationwide cuts twice in the space of a week at the end of June. And confidence is returning a little bit, but there were lots of caveats floating around this morning on that.
So we talk quite a lot on the podcast about house prices, about the long view as well as the short view. I suppose when you're talking to experts about this, how much are they factoring in Iran? How much are they factoring in people's purchasing power? And how much are they factoring, I suppose, the house building market? Like what's the general consensus on the direction of the rest of this year?
Yeah, so I do think Iran war as the kind of main factor in the housing market, that is receding quite a bit now, I think. Obviously, that does tie into purchasing power and general consumer confidence as well. But a lot of property experts at the moment are really zeroing in on Burnham as our likely incoming Prime Minister. Not necessarily what he specifically will mean for property, although he has got some interesting ideas about property tax, but just the fact that we're going to have, for the third consecutive year, a big period of uncertainty about how property taxes might change.
Worth saying, though, on this house price index that it is once again the north that is dragging up the average, and that is the south and London that have fallen again. So for our listenership listening in London, living in London, it's not as good a news as it looks in the headline.
No, and matched by a very somber tone there.
Spot the homeowner in the room.
Anyway, let's take a walk down the high street from the estate agent down to M&S, where they've been updating shareholders. And the chief executive of M&S's mum has said their dresses are getting too short.
Yeah, that's right, Martin. So apart from the length of the dresses, there was quite a lot of disquiet over the refreshments available at these shareholder meetings. One shareholder was harking back to the times under former chairman Stuart Rose, where there would be a sit-down dinner with directors and there'd be lots of refreshments, and he said it would be a proper day out for the family, he said. And another shareholder said
I miss the days that my mum and dad would take me to a shareholder meeting. Those were good times.
You're lucky these days if it's not just a Zoom call.
I know.
Yeah, just to be in the room is great. So I think it's brilliant that they hold the company to such high standards. I think it should be a day out. I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, Rachel Reeves's cheap family day out to the M&S AGM.
And finally, Felix, is Elephant and Castle about to get bougie?
It is. Well, they have announced that Everyman, the upmarket cinema brand, will be at the centre of their regeneration, their £500 million project, with a 5-screen cinema, which will have a bar, restaurant, all the amenities. And yeah, this is part of this project, which is bringing lots of retail brands and a new high street and lots of housing to this area of South London.
I think really needed. I think Elephant and Castle is such a strange area of London, which when you talk to people who knew the area well in the 90s, they'll have said, we don't go there, we don't get anywhere near that, that's a bit dodge. But even now, there is this strange, I think, disconnect between quite a lot of really quite premium property. It's great amenities, like great gyms, but also a lack of
Have you been
retail.
there at night?
I used to live in Kennington. Actually, I still live quite near Elephant Castle now. I won't disclose where, but there is something there's something wrong about it for someone which is essentially Zone 1. I think. I mean, I don't know if every man cinema is going to fix everything.
I thought it was scary at night.
I'm sorry.
Waiting for a cab, there was some sketchy scenes.
Well, you can wait on a cinema screen next time, Martin.
Yeah, taking a movie.
And I have to say, there's something about the Everyman Cinema which is deeply, and I think in quite an impressive, maybe quite unnerving way, Americanized the cinema experience. I was in an Everyman the other week to watch the excellent film Obsession, which I really enjoyed. But for the first 20 minutes, there were just maybe 4 or 5 waiters just coming around giving people like quite gourmet burgers and drinks,
tripping over feet on their way through
which
the
I think
aisles.
felt like it was slightly defeating the cinema experience, but was a sign of like people are really willing to buy into the experience economy around films. And if that can inject itself into Elephant and Castle, I have some hope for the area.
Once again, it's obvious I'm out of touch with the general public because that sounds absolutely insane.
Yeah, it is hell, but I like it economically. Does that make sense?
No,
Good.
I can't imagine ever spending more than however much it already costs to go to the cinema.
But you can just buy the tickets and not the food. So I think I was able to just sit back and be like, oh, this is fun, what they do.
Okay, well, we hope they succeed anyway.
And Felix, thank you very much for joining us for a wonderful retail roundup.
Right, coming up after the break, Prince Harry loses his phone hacking case against the Daily Mail's owner. Don't go away.
Welcome back. In a dramatic legal ruling, the High Court has decided in favour of the Daily Mail and against a group of individuals, including Prince Harry.
Our professional services editor, Maria Ward-Brennan, has been on the case. What's gone on here then?
Indeed, yes. So a very dramatic judgment, over 400 pages, the court has issued down on Tuesday in favour, actually, of the Associated Publications, which owns, obviously, the Daily Mail. I don't know, I wasn't expecting this given his last win there a couple of years ago against the Mirror Group. So I think, I don't know, others would sort of agree with me, but I thought it might go a little bit in his way. But again, it wasn't just him. Obviously, we have Prince Harry, it's Sir Elton John, it's Elizabeth Hurley. They're all put in sort of the cases as we sort of in what we know 15 years into the wiretapping sort of phone hacking scandal that has sort of been a grey cloud over journalism in this country. So it looks like now that's sort of coming to an end because the judge literally kicked everything out. It agreed with nothing on the claimant side, like it literally dismissed everything from time bars to sort of all the allegations that journalists were sort of interfering with phones, voicemails, etc. I think for Prince Harry, it was 14 articles at the heart of the case involving his private life before he met his wife, Meghan Markle. So yeah, that's sort of the be-all and end-all of that case, it seems. I can only imagine, I don't really foresee him sort of appealing this.
I mean, as you say, 'cause we were talking about this in the office earlier, it's a 400-page judgment and quite a stark one, the way it was worded by the judge.
Yes.
It feels like possibly it does close the door to a further appeal. I wonder also if it maybe closes the door on this entire saga, these 15 years of Leveson into the Leveson 2 inquiry that never happened. Obviously, as you say, the moment when the Mirror was found to have the other outcome in another judgment last year. I mean, I suppose where do you see this going now?
Indeed, as we're waiting for the judgment on Tuesday, and we started having a look into actually how much it has cost, and it's looking like it probably has cost the publishing as sort of all the sort of journalist publications about over £1 billion.
Wow.
Sort of from
That's Associated Newspapers, News Corp, Reach, PLC, like all of those all together. Wow.
And bear in mind,
I didn't know that was that much money left in journalism put together.
But it's definitely something which gets talked about in journalism a lot. Like how much a lot of the tabloid press are still like, even when there are moments where like money is being made, budgets always have to take into account these liabilities, which are now like 20 years old. But they're the sort of
every year they start a new P&L sheet and they're immediately in the red by X thousand because they're still paying off these claims that came through.
Indeed, and you have to keep in mind back in, I think a couple of years ago, I think it was 2022, 2023, there was I remember it so clearly the day I was looking at the High Court system, there was a day when I'd say a good 30 or 40 claims were issued issued at the same time to the courts, because there's also that time sensitivity around it of when you can actually issue your claim. And a lot of the sort of, when people found out they're hacked, there was sort of moments when you had to get a claim in or you'll be time barred. So it seems like now it might look like it is sort of coming to the end. But as you said yourself, £1 billion, obviously the Rupert Murdoch sort of empire has really been the main focus and all of that. There, I think the Guardian done an article a couple of years ago when they went through companies' houses and looked at how much is, because you have to put provisions, as you said yourself, aside for legal bills, and it did total to about £1.2 billion. Wow. So give or take that, and obviously the Mayor Group is probably at 150 million on this.
Do you think it's surprising, perhaps, Maria, that actually there were, in the end, very relatively few criminal convictions and not that many legal wins against newspapers? I wonder sometimes whether the court of public opinion was quite swift to say, actually, this was absolutely endemic across journalism in the 2000s. Whereas actually, I think when the sort of the legal histories of this are written, I think it's been a much murkier picture. Is that fair to say?
Yes, I get where you're coming from. I think obviously there has been a couple of criminal convictions in this. There's been a couple, obviously, a few people who've kind of ventured back into public life as well. But I think from the court's perspective, they had a lot to deal with. There was thousands of, I think at one point it was like, about 1,600 claimants at one point. So they have a lot to deal with trying to put these things together. And obviously it is historic. Cases when it's historic and trying to sort of showcase your the fact that you're hacked or how that really affected you is very different than sort of what you would put on a piece of paper of something that you know that's been physically harmed you. You know, it's a bit different. So I think from the media perspective, there's been a lot of cleanup. There's been obviously a lot of you can't act like that. We can't, go that way. And I think from the journalist perspective, I don't think anybody in this era of journalism would ever do that. I do think, there has been a bad branding.
And yet journalists of our sort of generation, slightly younger and never involved in this, I've been abused by people in public about having been a journalist, and someone said, "Oh yeah, go and hack some phones then," and I'm like,
I was 3.
Yeah,
literally. But I think like people who's listening, I don't think they realise when you go to journalism school, like many of us do, in order to work in the media, you learn about the news of the world. You learn about that whole hacking scandal and what the do's and don'ts, and make sure you don't do that. And you have ethics. Like I remember a whole year of my journalism degree was on ethics, and you've learned about this is right and wrong. And obviously it was a different era back then for the media. It was a very different. But you have to keep in mind the media were giving people what the people wanted. There's a bit of a difference there was an attitude from, you can't really sometimes criticise when you're the one clicking and wanting it.
Well, yeah, it was the time before social media, and it was a time when the tabloids ruled supreme, and it was a very different dynamic.
Yes.
We will, of course, be following this story closely if it continues. It might be that we've seen the last of this. In an ethical
Yes.
and responsible way. In the meantime, Maria, thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you very soon.
And finally, you may not have noticed due to all the hullabaloo about the World Cup, but Wimbledon is currently in full swing and a Brit has even made it to the quarterfinals. However, those who have been paying attention may have noticed swathes of empty seats this year, both on Court 1 and Centre Court. So who or what is to blame for all these empty, highly coveted spaces? We've got our very own Boris Becker in the studio to help us out with this. Matt Hardy, Deputy Sports Editor, joins us now.
I have a great relationship with HMRC. Thank you very much. I think the hello boys, this is great. 2 days in a row. Hey. I would say the reason of people like yourself. You went yesterday, right? And a bit of champagne. I went last week and, had a couple of pims.
I was at Wimbledon on Monday, courtesy of a very generous host. And there were
you two have become the problem. You've
I
become the
noticed
very thing about which we write.
This is what I'm trying to say. This has not become the problem. This has always been the problem. They put the corporates high up so that it looks good on telly and stuff. But the reality is, play starts at 1:30 on Centre Court and it can run through to 11 o'clock. You're not going to be there the whole time. Other sports, cricket, golf, rugby, football, there are corporate offerings where you're in a box and you can drink and nip out for a quick wee and you can go and it's just not the case. That's not how tennis works. So I don't think this is majorly new. The debentures are still selling out. Wimbledon who I had on the blower this week, is saying, it's still only 30 quid to get in. You can take your own booze in. It's still a brilliant...
Because they have had a bit of a ding-dong about ticket prices.
Yeah, so they have had a bit of a ding-dong. And a guy called Parth Jindal, who is the heir to a billionaire Indian fortune, also owns an IPL team, a cricket team called the Delhi Capitals. He kind of hit out this week and said, I've never seen so many empty seats. And I did some research. The only thing I could find about him tennis-wise is that he has a venture firm called Centre Court Limited, which I thought was quite good. Obviously, he loves his tennis. I don't know whether he has a debenture or anything. I haven't been able to find out. But Wimbledon kind of slapped this down and said, no, we're selling out. Everything's great. Fans also want to go out and see Arthur Ferry in round 4 when he was on court 18. They might not want to go and sit on centre court all the time.
So, Matt, what's the truth of this? Is there a new epidemic of empty seats? Is it always just quite a fluid picture anyway? Have things suddenly become out of reach in terms of cost? What's your view on this?
I think it's fluid. I think it's maybe a lack of huge matchups early on. We always tend to get some really interesting ones. Jack Draper was supposed to play one of the big Americans, but pulled out before. No Raducanu this time either. Sabalenka's out already. She went out on just a few days ago. So we're as little Brits are left with supporting people who we love because we love tennis and backing the Brit Arthur Ferry because he's a Brit, which is, amazing. He goes today against a brilliant young Italian called Flavio Cobolli. And if he wins, he's guaranteeing himself 900 grand. So,
I know for a fact that you go to hospitality stuff for part of your job. Are you not sometimes looking at the sheer number of people who are still in the box getting lathered, which is totally their prerogative and their right, but you do feel like there are sports fans out there that would give their left leg to be sat in the seat that these people are not going to, because they're there for the whole experience, for the vibe, for the Wimbledon vibe, which is the best. It's even better than Burnham vibes. It's just the best vibes. But do you not have a little bit of sympathy with these people who feel a little bit hard done by on that?
100%. I won't say who I went with, but I think I saw the opening match of the tournament, Yannick Sinner, on the Monday morning or the Monday afternoon. 2 or 3 of the people I were with saw maybe 6 games of that 5-set match.
Wow.
I sat through the whole thing because I love my tennis, and I did text a quite senior banking figure who loves their tennis, and I was like, this is what happened, and then they went, expletives. I'd have given my arm and a leg to have seen that match. So it is a problem, but this is kind of a corporate problem. What we need to do is get better at inviting people who love the sport that they're going to watch, or who can deal with the fact that they might have to sit there and just have a little chat with someone while something's going on that maybe they find less interesting.
So you're saying that people should ultimately stomach the torment of having to watch
live
top-tier live sport
with hymns next to me.
Sign me up.
Well, that is a pleasure that very few people will have. But luckily, people have had the pleasure for 2 days now of hearing your insights into the sports ecosystem. And I'm sure people are going to hear even more as this wonderful summer of sport progresses.
And may I say, I have watched sport with both of you. And it's an honour.
We've been to the golf.
And we've been to the sumo. It's an honour.
Yeah, the sumo sounds more interesting, actually.
The sumo is excellent. Right, we're dipping into personal lives again. Thank you, Matt. Have you back
Cheers,
soon.
lads. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, that's all we have time for today. Thank you very much for listening to Business as Usual.
Don't forget to subscribe to City AM's daily and weekly newsletters. And of course, don't forget to download our free app.
It's got everything those expensive news apps have, but we are, of course, free. We'll be back in your podcast feeds tomorrow at 6 a.m. But for now, goodbye.
Goodbye.